So, I started a video a few days ago, and I cut it short because, frankly, I was overwhelmed. I meant to rewatch it and figure out which little bits I'd missed where and where to continue from, but, the saga just continues, so I'm just going to talk about what's happened since then. It's Sunday morning. It's about 7:30. On Thursday, I called the sheriffs to, update them about how George had been messaging several of the roommates. I talked to a Deputy Jordan for about an hour, and he was great. He sympathized. He'd been a victim of fraud before. He was telling me, what was working in our favor, all things considered, what we needed to mind, all things considered, what we ought try, all things considered. He was being pretty great. Called him the next day because A, I'd forgotten a piece, and B, there was more to report by then. Because by Friday, one of the roommates, John, was pulling in. He'd been out, he was pulling back in, and he sees George's truck, and so he blocks it in. And it's not George in his truck, it's some other guy. And he approaches him and says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" or whatever. And guy's like, "Look, man, I don't want any trouble. I don't want to be involved in this. I'm one of George's tenants. He was saying he was going to up my rent." He says he's trying to shut the utilities off here so that he can call CPS on the moms and get them in trouble because he's mad at them. He's feeling spiteful. I'm just trying to take some of this piping away because the health department's trying to fix your plumbing, which isn't wrong. He was clearly he was lying. He was praising his own situation. He was giving us a self-righteous situation. But what we were hearing is that George was being spiteful, meaning to harm our lives, sending people around. We got pictures of the truck and everything. So I reported that to Deputy Jordan as well. Yesterday, John and Coda were out hiking. The other roommate, Adam, he was messing around in the garage for a while, but then he left to do whatever. Maxwell works. Guy in the pool house, Maxwell works. I was home alone with River most of the time. Most of the time. The other roommates came and went. I was alone with River for some hours, I should say, in the afternoon and maybe early evening. And I heard banging around at one point. I sold something of mine. I saw those people come and I saw them go. They didn't mess with anything. They asked if they could examine our trash because we'd thrown out a rug. They asked permission to do that first, They didn't end up taking the rug. But come evening time, I think Adam's been back for a minute, maybe poking around, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'd just been back after a while. But anyway, he passes me outside. I'm in the living room kind of stepping outside, and he passes me and he's like, "Somebody broke into Maxwell's in the pool house." And I'm like, "What? Are you sure? Did he say that to you?" He's like, "Yeah, man, he's over there. He's kind of frantic. I'm going to go over there to kind of, be with him, calm down." And so I located my daughter. I went over to the pool house, and I'm like, River actually said, "Hey, Max, are you okay?" And he goes, "No." And I'm like, "Dude, what happened?" And he's like, somebody kicked my screen in, and I was robbed, He told me to go in and look, so I went in and I looked around, and stuff was turned out onto the bed, stuff was turned out in the bathroom, stuff was generally thrown around, the cupboards were thrown open. There was a wood panel in his closet that had been ripped off, like people were looking for goods, I had heard banging around. I'd heard banging around for about maybe 15 minutes on and off in that evening, in that time block where I was alone. And I thought either somebody was coming home, I was hearing them slam their doors or slam their stuff or slam themselves around, or the cupboards in the garage in the carport, they're not braced back anymore. They were held back with giant nails, and those have slipped out. So they bang around if the wind catches them. I thought, oh, I don't see a car. It must be the stuff in the garage banging around. I wish I'd have gone and checked. But yeah, his TV was stolen. His rappel harness was stolen. Something else was stolen. I think another electronic. Um, Luckily, since we got this news, people have been kind of sweeping their valuables back to storage or back to mom's house or back to wherever. So his best stuff wasn't there, which he's grateful for. But well, that's where today's update went. We told him, hey, no one's in George's room anymore. Just move into the house if it feels more safe to you. We don't know whether to think it was somebody who knew the layout of the pool house, someone being advantageous, a crony of George's, or what, because we're up a hill. You can't accidentally get to this. Isn't a convenient place to rob. It's not. We're like in a neighborhood at the back of a driveway at the top of a hill. There's one other house up here, but I don't think it was them. you know. So this is a weird place to rob. Now maybe one of these foothills yuppies has a tweaker nephew who saw Maxwell's van and it looked like a juicy pick, and who knows. We're suspecting George, of course. We don't have proof. I just don't know what to do. If you could promise me I had 8 weeks here, I'd go collect a couple paychecks, but I don't know what my time looks like here. Um, I rely on other people doing me a favor to get into town because while we're not far out of town, we're out of town enough that I need to get back in. And I don't drive. I don't have a vehicle. I'm working up a GoFundMe. I mean to contact K-Gun News. I mean, this is out of control. And I don't have options. I've been spending this summer trying to get a place in a shelter, and you just have to catch that magical window on that magical moment they're available, because you're basically not going to get into a shelter right now. They're full. We're hardly seeing space in weekly hotel rooms, because for a while that wasn't looking like an option either. There was one off of I-10, or I'm sorry, there was one off of the freeway, and it occasionally had spots. So, long story short, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. This is incredibly stressful. Deputy Jordan seemed to think that all things considered, we have better luck than some fraud victims, and maybe we haven't been served a 30-day notice yet. We haven't been served any eviction paperwork yet. We've not seen any of that. Our being here might have held up the sale of the house. Our being here might have changed people's minds. Discovering George's fraud might just be taking up people's time. We don't know. So, they're not going to put me out tomorrow, but I've got goods in storage I'm trying to sell, but they're niche. They're antiques. They're dolls. They're art supplies, collectible cards. I thought I'd landed in the foothills. I was going to be around elevated people. I was going to be around premium education, safer neighborhood, wildlife to observe and interact and be part of the way you can't be in town. I sank all my money into this. The tax return that I was just dreaming would one day come to me for 4 months, 4.5 months. It finally came and he took off with a quarter of it. And I sank money into the household I was promised wouldn't happen for food and for cleaning supplies because there weren't any of those things that were promised to not come out of my pocket. My daughter's hard to care for, and that's only half an issue right now because I have a sitter. Sitter's subject to her daughter's schedule, but I do have a sitter who's willing and able to care for my daughter who sometimes needs extra care. But I've got a bunch of pieces floating in the air while I'm in free fall, you know. DES looks like it's going to go through, provided I can. I've got emergency stuff going, provided I can turn the paperwork in. You know, no reason to think there'll be a hitch. I'm at a loss. Um, this guy, he likes, what he enjoys doing is fucking up a person's situation, you know. He realizes his fridge is broken. He advertises it as fixed. The guy shows up, says, "I really, really need something that helps me freeze my shit. I've got medication, and I do projects with my kids. I really need the freezer to work. My last freezer didn't work." Oh yeah, yeah, take it, buddy, take it, buddy. And he's laughing as soon as the door closes, that kind of thing. Or he strands me in town when my daughter is up here in the foothills. Granted, Coda was too, but it's funny to him, you know. Put a person in that sort of situation. So he's not going to stop fucking with us until he gets bored, which isn't likely soon, or he gets in so much trouble he's prevented from it, and he's already banned from the property. I if I could just go to a friend's house, I would. If I could just go to a shelter, I would. If I could just suck it up, know that I had a couple of paychecks to collect, go collect a couple, I'd just do that. I have no idea how to handle this. I'm trying everything I can think of. I'm trying everything I'm advised to. Um, I don't know. My standards for living aren't high, you know? Like, I didn't need this to be all of those things I listed. It didn't need to be elevated people and better school and safer environment and nature to roll in. It didn't need to be all those things, man. I was sleeping in a van before this. I didn't lose work or I didn't lose my home because I was a bad person or because I screwed up or because I was lazy. Me and my daughter got sick through the holidays. And my boss realized I was prone to getting sick and freaked out, insisted I had more time off, and all of that together is too much money lost. I I pushed through the holiday season. That's why he worried, is because I worked through it anyway. You know, I didn't have the money to lose, so I worked through it anyway. I took the time off when I had COVID, I had to, but the holiday season, I gutted that. And on the one hand, he's like, "You can powerhouse. I see that now. Thank you. Now I know that." And on the other hand, he's like, "I want you to fucking drop dead on my shift, you know." I didn't I didn't think it would take so long staying with friends or that would be so dramatic. I thought I'd be off of work for a week. I thought I would be off of work for a week. I'd settle in with my friend. I'd go back to work, but my sitter quit in the meantime By the time I had to sit her again, they'd replaced me at work. And shortly after that, shortly after that, I was sleeping in the van because I tried living with my friend's neighbor to relieve my friend who was overburdened, and neighbor got gross with me. Neighbor got dangerous with me. Neighbor got dangerous and gross with me, and his dog got dangerous with children. So I don't think I'm making bad calls. I don't think I'm being reckless. I don't, and I'm just trying to take care of my daughter. I'm trying to take care of my daughter because she's only 5. She's been through too much. She's getting tossed around. Her stuff's always in storage. She's always making friends and having to leave it. She's always trying to readjust to a new place to live. I don't want to be doing that to her. I'm not an unstable person. I'm not someone who can't keep work. I'm not someone who doesn't know how to groom themselves. I don't drive. I'm seizure prone, so I can't.